Hello, faithful, and welcome to Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio here on YouTube. I'm your host, Keven Crothers, station manager for Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio and staff writer for Heaven's Metal Magazine. And today, in our classic album review, classic albums in review, we're going to go to 1988. And this album is the second full-length album from LA metal act Barren Cross. And I think I got the vinyl around here too. Barren Cross, this album was a big deal because it was also it came out on Enigma Records, home for Stryper. And I know for a lot of us, going to a secular record store, I went to Tower Records, and I still had to go to the religious section. I don't believe Barren Cross was in heavy metal. And that was always the thing. It should be right where the other metal albums are, but because of the lyrical content, and you still have this separation of the sacred and the secular. Why Stryper wasn't necessarily relegated to that section, I don't know exactly. I know today when I go into what few secular shops or regular record stores, I find Stryper in the Christian section, not next to, the Scorpions, for instance. So, anyway, between Atomic Arena. I was never a big fan, frankly, of the album art. I always thought it needed to look more menacing. It needed to look heavy metal, and that was one thing. But once you get past that, and you're listening to the music itself, wow. They did shoot a video for album opener, Imaginary Music. And the first thing you notice when you're listening to this record, that the lyrics aren't necessarily as preachy. That was the big thing. Rock for the King, it was Jesus, 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 Jesus. And nobody would touch that in the secular realm in 1986, 87, 88, 89. It just didn't happen. And with Atomic Arena, they try to give and put some songs that, imaginary music. The whole idea was the power that you have as an artist, the influence you have over people. And they shot a music video for it. I honestly don't remember if I saw this on MTV or not. So I'm going to say probably not, because I think I would have remembered if I'd seen it. It's possible, but was it on Headbangers Ball? Really? Can you give me a date and a time? So, but the songs themselves, Imaginary Music, good solid metal opener, Killers of the Unborn, dealing with abortion. That was pretty heavy duty, even in 88. In the Eye of the Fire, talking about suicide. This song and album close, and another song, In the Eye of the Fire, and a song off the next record, I believe, 2,000 Years, originally were all one song together, and they broke it up into two pieces. But In the Eye of the Fire, it's metal. It doesn't have a guitar solo per se. It has a couple of really cool time change breakdowns. Jim Laverty is flashing his bass guitar throughout that song. Terrorist Child, talking about issues of growing up in a society where you're taught that killing and dying for your faith is the most high pinnacle. Close to the Edge, dealing also with heaven, and death. Deadlock, one of my favorite songs. I love I love this song dealing with, dealt with chemical dependency, cocaine, pot, whatever. These days, that's a whole nother can of worms. Where they were really talking about cocaine in this song. Cultic regimes, dealing with false religions, false belief systems, and the power they exert over their followers. It's a speed metal track, frankly. Heaven or Nothing, which was the ballad, I never really quite... If I'm listening to Barren Cross, I do not want to hear a keyboard that starts the song. I'm like, this isn't Europe. This isn't Journey. I just, personally, I know there are people out there, you're going to go, what? Well, you know what? That's okay. It was never a favorite of mine. But King of Kings, one of the absolute greatest heavy metal praise songs ever written. Every time I make a list of worship tunes that rock, this song is one of the top 1, 2, or 3 on that list. Every time, bar none. And of course, album closer, Living Dead, dealing with what happens when you die. It's heavy, fast. I probably, personally, this was also remastered here by Retroactive Records. Is this a gold disc? Nope, not a gold disc, but it was redone, and I always thought Barren Cross needed to have full-on, all-leather, they needed to look more heavy metal, and, the blue and white thing at first was okay, but obviously the striper comparisons, people, obviously, you're going to look at, wow, and then all of a sudden you're going, well, wait a minute, they're going to sound like Striper, and Barren Cross does not sound like Striper, and they really don't sound like Iron Maiden either. I mean, Mike Lee, a.k.a. Mike Drive, he had, the tonality of his voice at times would remind you 30 years ago of Bruce Dickinson. I hear it now, and it doesn't. But, back then it did. And you know what? That's okay, if you ask me. It's not like he tried to sound like that. But I remember I bought the album, right off the Tower Records rack. And I played this often and endlessly. An absolutely fantastic heavy metal album. A true classic. I'm glad it was remastered. And if you like traditional heavy metal and you've never heard Barren Cross before, make yourself an appointment and get a copy of Atomic Arena. That's our classic album in review today. Again, thanks for catching us. We'll be back again with more classic albums in review. Hope you have a great day. Don't forget to say your prayers. And until next time, God bless.